Lance Hall here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. Happy to welcome Kristian Niemann, guitarist for the band Sorcerer, to the program today. How you doing, Kristian?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm doing really good. I'm totally looking forward to this.
Yeah, I am too. I tell you, I listened to the album last night and watched the video, and then watched your other video you released today, which we'll get to in a moment. And I tell you, Kristian, I had the hardest time picking a favorite track off of this album. They were all so good.
And that's a good problem to have.
Absolutely. Of course, we're talking about the upcoming Sorcerer album called Lamenting of the Innocent, coming out May 29th on Metal Blade. And I, of course, have heard an advance copy. Fantastic stuff. You've got to be really anxious to get this out for the world to hear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're super happy with it. You know, we were happy with the last one too. Of course, we really like Fire King album, but and it's always nerve-wracking to release something new after something that was pretty well received. But yeah, so far people seem to really dig it. You know, so that's good.
You've done pretty good for a band that got together back in 2010. That was just supposed to be a one-off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just supposed to be one festival, the Hammer of Doom in Würzburg. The organizer there, Oliver, asked us to asked actually Johnny and Anders if they would want to reform the band, you know, with the old members, but they couldn't really locate them all. So they asked me if I wanted to step in on guitar, you know, and then we just added another guitar player and a drummer, and then off we went. Played two festivals. We played that festival, and then the year after we played a gig in Athens, up the Hammers.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and after that one, we just said, yeah, we had a great chemistry here. Why don't we try to record an album? And that became In the Shadow of the Red Cross.
I was going to say, with this album, you got sort of an interesting blend. Because Anders and Richard go back to the very just about the beginnings of the band back in the late 80s, early 90s, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And you and Peter have been around since about 2010?
Yeah, I was in the band 2010, and then we had another guitar player, Ola Englund. I don't know if you're familiar. He was in he's in The Haunted now.
Okay.
And then Peter joined in 2013, I think, just before we recorded In the Shadow of the Red Cross. Yeah.
And then your bassist Justin is really new, correct?
Yeah, he joined. Actually, he pretty much rejoined at the same time, or not rejoined. He joined when Richard rejoined, which was right after The Fire King was released in 2017. Then we needed, we parted ways with the drummer, and Johnny, our previous bass player. He took, he wanted to quit the live playing with the band because he's got too much of a family thing going. You know, a lot of kids and a lot of work and everything, so he wanted to step back from that. And then we brought in Justin. So Justin and our old drummer Ricky, they pretty much joined at the same time.
Wow, so that's a really interesting blend, of people. But it's obviously working because once again, this album's fantastic. It's Lamenting of the Innocent. Talk to us a little bit about that title. I read it has something to do with the Inquisitions.
Yeah, I mean it's that's exactly right. The album is. It's a concept album, but not in a chronological sense. Not like, Operation Mindcrime or stuff like that, where the story starts and then ends, at the last song. This is more like the lyrics are centered around the concept of the Inquisition and witch burnings and all that stuff. And then you're not stuck to listening to, from the beginning to end to follow a certain story. You can just skip around if you want. Yeah. And the title track, or the title, I guess we just went for the longest title, as we want to do, We're looking at our previous albums, they have a long title, so that one just resonated with us, and we said just go with that.
How about the cover art? What was the conception behind that? Is that something you guys did? Did you work with somebody?
Yeah, we worked with a guy named Dusan Markovic, really talented guy. He's done lots of work for other bands and also books and games and all kinds of stuff. Our singer Anders found him online, found some of his art, and we just fell in love with it and said, like, okay, we got to use this guy. And yeah, sure, we agreed. And we sent him, told him about the concept and sent him the album title and what it was about. Then he created a sketch, like just a pencil sketch, sent it to us, and we were like, oh, it's pretty close, but not really close, not really what we want. We want it a bit more grandiose. Then he came back with another sketch, and it was pretty much what you got in the album cover, and then said, yeah, just go for it. And then he just, of course, colored it and made it real.
Yeah.
And that's what you have.
I like the whole concept and the story behind it because I was always a big fan of the movie. Over here it was called Witchfinder General with Vincent Price in it. Have you ever seen it? I think over there it was like The Lair of the White Worm or something like that.
Okay, no, I haven't seen that one. I know the name Witchfinder General, but that's a band, right?
It's a band, but it's also a movie.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Vincent Price plays a character who is, I guess you would call him, I forget the exact name, but he's more or less like a witch hunter and goes into these villages and accuses different women of being witches, and they burn them or they drown them, or it was an interesting movie.
Okay, yeah, I need to check it out then.
Yeah, I liked it. So let's talk about a couple of videos you made, because those are excellent as well. Wait a minute, let me back up one thing. You guys self-produced this album, but you also had a little help with mixing, and I want you to help me with Ronnie's last name, your mixer.
Björnström.
Okay. Who mixed and mastered it. You've obviously worked with him in the past, or was this the first time?
No, he's done all our albums. He's done, we released 3 albums and an EP. He's done all of them.
Okay.
He didn't master all of them, but he mastered this one. But he's just awesome. I mean, he's from a bit up north in Sweden. Super friendly, super calm, cool guy. Level-headed, and there's nothing you can throw at him that will shake him. He's always there. It's cool, no problem. I will fix it. And that's such a relief to have someone like that. And that they're gonna take care of stuff.
Yeah.
Super talented guy. Absolutely.
Excellent. Now, you've released 2 videos, Hammer of the Witches, and then just today you released Dance with the Devil, both directed by Daniel, is it Wallström?
Yeah.
With Heavy Groove Media over there in Sweden. Excellent videos, and I'm trying to figure out, obviously their length. Is Dance with the Devil sort of a prelude to Hammer of the Witches, even though that one came out first?
Not really. They are on different sides of the album, you could say.
Okay.
The Hammer Witches is the first song on the album, and Dance with the Devil is one of the last ones.
Okay. I was talking like the storyline of the videos, though.
Okay, I was thinking about that. All right, yeah. I think the storyline and the videos is pretty loose.
Okay.
That's what I think. But there's if you watched the last video, I can say it's going to be a lot of videos. I'm going to tell you that.
Very cool.
And then in the last video, there's going to be a conclusion. So that's definitely going to be you will get what's happening at the end. It's going to match the lyrics. But other than that, I think it's pretty loose, the actual events in the videos. I love him. I think he's a really talented guy. He did it really quickly. I mean, he just went to town with it, and also one of those guys like Ronnie, just like no limits, just a bunch of ideas and just a positive attitude. And we love to work with people like that,
Yeah. So obviously, if you say you got a lot of videos coming, you guys were pretty busy before this whole COVID-19 thing struck everyone down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're gearing up for this release, trying to, fill the airways with this, a couple of social media stuff and YouTube and videos and all this stuff, and, planning on the release gigs and everything. But yeah, that's sort of through a sort of a, wrench in the gears, whatever you say. But it's the same for every band,
right.
That's releasing stuff now. It's just,
In hindsight now, though, a good thing you were busy doing those videos because it can keep you current as you're going through, right?
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true, yeah. But of course, we're going to have to figure out what to do in the near future. I mean, we're probably going to do a bunch of streaming, maybe just from the rehearsal room, just playing the songs and trying to do whatever we can to, to make it into a better situation.
Exactly. I've got to ask, in Hammer of the Witches, who is the young lady who plays the witch? Is that a friend of the band or an actress that Daniel hired, or she was
Yeah,
lovely.
she's a friend of Daniel.
Really.
Yeah, her name is Maya,
Uh, Lovely.
and she's I think she's sort of like an actual witch or something. I think,
Really?
or into something into the Wicca kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah.
Let's talk about a few of the songs on the album. I've made a few notes on some. I'd love to ask about everyone, but I try to narrow it down to just a few. Um, the title track, Lamenting of the Innocent, I loved the build on that track, how it started out sort of subtle and then just built and built and built, kind of like layers piling up. I love that track. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite song on the album. I love that tune too, and it's the song. I think it started with the chorus. It was one of the first songs where we completed, and the chorus was one of the first choruses we completed. I mean, to us, the choruses are really important.
Mm.
I mean, if we have a great chorus, we can sort of build the rest around it, but that's the focal point. And we work this way that the instrumentalist, me and Peter, the other guitar player, and Johnny and Justin, we each record demos at home and we send them to our singer to work on, melodies and lyrics.
Mm.
And it's a back and forth kind of thing. And when he finished the vocals, the vocal melody for that chorus, Lamenting of the Innocent, I was just knocked out. I was blown away because it was like I said, you're always nervous, writing a new album and thinking, is this even half as good as the last album,
Mm.
But when I heard that one, I was like, okay, we're gonna be good. This is gonna be great,
Yeah.
I heard what he put in there, and I really love it. And then like you said, it's layers upon layers of stuff, and I think of it this way. I mean, the chorus is obviously the climax, and then you just need to, because dynamics is important. You can't just keep pounding people on the head all the time with just heavy stuff. You need to come down and build, and that's what keeps it interesting. I mean, in terms of dynamics and volume, but also key centers and changing keys and stuff. So we really took our time with that one, craft the riffs and the verses and the solo before the first chorus and stuff like that, And then at the ending, the choirs come up and there's another solo melody taking over. Yeah, we build that one a lot.
Very, very good track. The next one I had, Where Spirits Die, and I think this is the first time I've used this word to describe a track. To me, it was kind of lumbering. And I mean that in a heavy sense, like when something heavy is coming through the forest, you can hear the crashing and it's just sort of lumbering through. And then I love the twin leads out. I thought those were awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. That song is probably the slowest song we've ever done, It's really slow. And that description you just said, it matches it perfectly, I think. And it started off as it was a Johnny song from Johnny came up with the riffs for that one. He sent it to me, and I added, I think, the chorus, and I added some other stuff, the leads and stuff, solo section. But it was also one of those songs. It's got a really powerful chorus, and the vocal performances of that song. That's probably my favorite vocals on the album,
Yeah.
In terms of building. Anders really takes it, really builds it from verse to chorus to verse to bridge to chorus. It's amazing. And then it ends, like you say, with the twin lead guitars. So it's also one of my favorites.
One thing that I was always aware of, but I never really thought of the dynamic behind it until I watched, believe it or not, a Motown special the other day. And they had Smokey Robinson on there, and he was talking about how they had team meetings out there when they were crafting songs and stuff. And when he had actually done Tears of a Clown, he took it into a team meeting, and they were like, it's a good song, but you're really going to leave that ending the way it is? He had it ending completely different than the way it turned out in the end. And I had never really thought about that, the dynamic that goes into the start of a song, but yet in the end of a song, as opposed to having twin leads out, having it end dead, having it just fade, having it fade on a chorus. Is this all stuff that you guys work on as well?
Absolutely. We think of every detail, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I mean, we don't have any songs that ends with a solo. I think, you know, the most of them end with, like you say, either it's a chorus repeat, and then back to the riff in the main riff.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens, or it ends with a chorus, like maybe like lamenting or the crowning of the Fire King or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
Actually doesn't end on the chorus. Sorry.
Right.
Okay. But yeah. But with this one, it just felt like when we got to the guitar solo, the song was already so long that we were like, okay, do we really need to add more choruses to this one, or could we just end it like this? You know, and we just felt like the twin leads at the end. You know, it sort of added this majestic kind of feeling. You know, and sort of a melancholic feeling as well. You know.
Yes.
And when you fade that out, it's like it leaves this like, oh, damn, you know, you want to raise the volume and hear more of it, you know, but you know, it fades out. Yeah. I think it's a really cool ending.
Definitely. And another one that I thought had a cool outro was Condemned. This song sort of reminded me a little bit of the band Trouble. And I love the timing change in the middle. I always love any songs with timing changes and stuff like that. And then the outro, again, great tune.
Oh, thanks, man. That's Peter's song, actually. He wrote that one together with Anders. Yeah, awesome song. It's sort of I look at it sort of like a ballady kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful, amazing song. And like you say, yeah, also very very cool outro.
Yeah.
Great.
Hammer of the Witches. I'll tell you, I was listening to this album late last night. It was like, you know, close to midnight. You know, the witching hour. I hit Hammer of the Witches, and that song is damn spooky. And that spoken word part in the middle of it and everything, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It's definitely going to make my Spotify Halloween playlist.
Awesome, man.
How did you come on the spoken word part in that?
Let's see. How do we come up with that? I think it was probably Anders and his co-producer Connie. They were working together on the vocals. They probably were the ones who came up with the idea that it should be something spoken. And then there's other spoken parts too. There's also on Dance with the Devil in the middle, and also on Age of the Damned. There's like a spoken part. I mean, and we hired a guy, an English guy, to do the parts. You know, I mean. I think we entertained the idea of doing it ourselves for like 1 second, and then we realized none of us are really great at English, so it would suck pretty much. We would do it, you know. So better get a guy who can really, you know, vocalize it in a like a really good classic spooky kind of like a Vincent Price kind of way.
Yes,
you know?
That's what I was going to say.
The Vincent Price, it's funny because I had that one. You know the stuff he did for Michael Jackson on Thriller.
Yes.
Yeah, that one was the one I sent him, like, can you make it sound like this? Please make it sound like this, you know? So I sent him that soundbite from the Michael Jackson song, like, okay, this is the vibe I'm going for.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, it worked, because that was the first thing that popped in my head when I heard it. Like, man, he sounds just like, you know, this sounds just like Thriller, you know, with the breakdown and everything. So, and I do remember the other spoken word parts, but I guess that one just sort of jumped out at me because I'm a bit of a Halloween freak, and you get this, you know, Dance with the Devil, and the way that song was, the imagery and the lyrics, and then that spoken word was just brilliant.
Yeah, cool, man. It did its job, then. That's good.
I wanted to touch on Deliverance, too, because you've got a couple of guests on that track. Can you tell us about who guested on this and how that came about?
Yeah, sure. Johan Lennqvist from Candlemass, vocalist. The brilliant Johan. And then Svante Henriksson, cello player. Johan is an old friend of Anders, our singer. Anders used to be in a band with Johan's younger brother way back, before Sorcerer and everything.
Okay.
And this was, I think it was actually after Johan already left Candlemass, you know, for the first time. They were in a band, but they kept, you know, being friendly and, you know, kept contact over the years.
Sure.
And then when Johan rejoined Candlemass, you know, it was like, oh, that's a cool, that's a really good thing, you know, because we're of course all fans of that album, you know, Epicus Doomicus Metallicus.
Yeah.
And I think Anders they just figured at some point, why not? Because obviously Candlemass are the Doom Kings. The Kings of Doom.
Yeah.
For us,
the groundbreakers.
Being from Sweden, it's like that's the main. Those are the guys,
Yeah.
And Leif Edling to me is like, he's the king. He's the best songwriter in Sweden. No, bar none.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we asked Johan, hey, do you want to come down and guest on a song? And Johan is the nicest guy ever. And yeah, absolutely, no problem. Just tell me when.
Yeah.
And then they decided to do it on Deliverance, because I think it offers a little bit of a different environment for Johan compared to Candlemass, because Candlemass are pretty crushing like all the time,
Yeah.
But then this one was more open, more room for his voice. I think it was a great choice. Just came down to the studio one day, just sang a couple of takes, and that was it.
Nice.
Awesome. And then Svante Henriksson, who he's a really renowned cello player in Sweden. He's done so many things. And he actually played bass with Yngwie Malmsteen back in the early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he played, the dude is a shredder of epic proportions. He could keep up with Yngwie, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the connection there is also, again, Anders. Svante played on an old Lion's Share song. I can't remember the track now, but and also they kept in touch over the years, and Anders just asked him, sent him an email, he liked the song, and he just did it. We sent him the tracks, he did it in his home studio, and sent the tracks back.
Nice.
It was quick.
Very cool.
The dude is a total pro, so.
Yeah. Then I gave you my last song test. I'm always listening to the last song as intently as I do the first one, because I want to make sure, are they trying as hard on the last song as they are on the first one? Path to Perdition just absolutely blew me away. You passed with flying colors. Who's doing the guitar on the intro? Is that you or Peter?
Both. We're like a dueling kind of thing. I think I'm doing the first, the third, and the fifth solo, and Peter's doing 2, 4, and 6, I think. And it's like it's panned a little bit in the speakers. You can hear one slightly on one side and the other one slightly more to the other side.
Well, here's the notes that I got written here. Damn near Floyd-like intro, meaning Pink Floyd, Gilmore. And then it sort of drops into like a Kashmir vibe that I thought just gave it an epicness that I was completely blown away. Completely blown away.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, I wasn't thinking Gilmore, but of course I love David Gilmour, obviously. And I haven't heard the Kashmir reference, but absolutely, it makes absolute sense.
That power is there.
You mention it now, yes. It sounds sort of like Kashmir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, we don't want any weak songs on the album, We tried, every song needs to be awesome as much as it can be. And that one, it just made for a good ending, It's for me personally, I wanted Deliverance to be the last song for the longest time. I thought that would be the perfect ending to the record, like a really slow thing, and then fade it out.
Yeah.
I was outvoted. No one agreed with me. So then Path to Perdition was the other choice, and then we decided, okay, let's do it then. And then I decided we added the organ at the end, the church organ.
Yes.
Just like a fat, really, because the thing, if you look at the cover, they're standing in a church, and I wanted that kind of to tie in together, the whole church kind of thing,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Cool.
Well, I'll tell you, you talk about how you didn't want to have a bad song in the album. To me, you don't, because like I said, I couldn't really pick a favorite. If I had to, I would probably go with Path. I really liked Path. I thought it was great. And that's not a knock on any of those. I loved Hammer of the Witches, Dance with the Devil, of course. They were all fabulous stuff. Talking with Kristian Niemann here, guitarist for the band Sorcerer, their new album Lamenting of the Innocent, coming out May 29th on Metal Blade. You went to GIT here in the States for a while, I was reading, back in your formative years. How was that?
I did. Absolutely. 94 to 96. Yeah. Some of the best years of my life.
And
that was awesome.
did you meet up with anybody who was big then, big now? That you look back on, and you say, "Holy crap! I played with those people, or I went to school with those people."
Yeah, let's see. I played with a bass player named Francesco Di Cosmo. He was in Mambo's Brain for a minute with Chris Poland.
Okay.
He was also in one incarnation of Thin Lizzy. He was in Evanescence for a while.
Wow.
That dude, I mean, already back then he was just, I mean, both as a singer and a bass player, he just slayed everybody.
Wow. That's cool.
Then I played with a drummer friend, a roommate that I met like one of the first weeks, Sammy Watson, drummer, amazing drummer. Played with a band called Apex Theory for a while. Okay,
yeah.
He's just fantastic guy. Those are the ones on the top of my head right now that people could probably know about. But yeah, that was such a great experience, just meeting tons of people with the same obsession about music that you have, that was such a fantastic time.
Yeah, if you don't bring your chops to that place, you're going to get left behind pretty quickly,
Yeah, absolutely. I had to practice so much to keep up.
Normally, well, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay. Normally, I would talk about touring and stuff going forward, but of course we don't really know when that's going to happen. But we mentioned how you're going to do some streaming. You've got the videos in the can ready to come out. So you guys, for the time being at least, are pretty well set. If you could do a dream tour with someone, who would you like to hook up with?
I got asked this question before, so I will repeat my answer. It would be Sorcerer opening up. And it would be Candlemass as a second band, and it would be Iron Maiden headlining, and just playing stuff from the 80s.
Yeah. The early stuff.
That would be my dream tour.
Very
sure.
Cool. Well, I tell you, Kristian, I usually end my interviews with some fun questions, so I'm hoping these are questions you haven't been asked before. Sound good?
Yeah, man, go for it.
What is something outside of music that you're good at?
Oh shit. Nothing.
I mean, are you like a good builder, or you do, a writer, or you work with pottery or something like that?
No, nothing. I'm pretty bad at everything. I mean, I'm a pretty lousy cook. I used to play soccer when I was younger, so I guess I was pretty good at soccer.
Okay.
Let's say that. Just save my honor a little bit.
Very good. Favorite toy growing up as a child?
The Star Wars. What would you call it? When the Star Wars came out, the little figurines.
Right, the figures and stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I had 60 maybe.
Wow.
A ton of them. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's stick with your childhood for a moment. If you could go back in time and eat one of your mom's home-cooked meals from your youth, what would you have her fix for you?
I would have her spaghetti bolognese. Okay. That was that's the pinnacle of the spaghetti bolognese for me. I always try to make it taste like hers, but it's not possible.
Favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero?
Yes.
Spider-Man, for sure.
All right.
Sense of humor, and just, awesome.
Very cool. Let's flip the script. Favorite villain?
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader?
Maybe / Boba Fett, but definitely a Star Wars character. Vader or Boba Fett, sure.
Okay. Would you rather have a 1-minute conversation with you from your past or with you in the future? With a past you or a future you?
I would not dare to talk to me in the future. That would be too scary, so I would go for the past.
Right. Let's see, and this is one all right, let me ask this one first. Other than your own music, what was the last piece of music you listened to outside of a Sorcerer song?
It was right before this interview. I listened to the single from Black Dahlia Murder, the Child of Night, I think it's called. Yeah.
Cool. Last one, and this is the one we have a lot of fun with. If they were to make a movie of your life, what actor would you have play you in the movie? And it's your movie, your life. You can pick anybody.
Boy, well, that was a difficult question. I mean, to say someone, a good-looking guy,
Sure, Brad Pitt or somebody like that,
you know, like Stallone or something. But that would not be very realistic. I don't know, a guy like Gary Oldman or something, like really.
There you go.
That dude can play anything, so I'd say Gary Oldman.
Very cool. Just to get us back to music, if a youngster came up to you and said, Mr. Niemann, when I grow up, I'd like to be a really good guitarist in a great rock and roll band, what advice would you give him to get him there? Or let's say he or she, guy or girl.
Yeah, I would say just make sure that you love what you're doing, because if you absolutely love what you're doing, like in this case playing guitar, say, then it's not going to be a problem. Then you can just spend hours and hours and hours and work your ass off because you're going to have to. And I would probably leave him with this saying, which I learned from my guitar teacher, which probably comes from, I think, like a jazz guy, Pat Metheny or something, like, if you take care of the music will take care of you.
Mm.
That was also always very inspiring to me and always made me want to practice, endlessly.
Yeah.
So yeah, just love what you do and give it everything you have.
Very cool. Talking with Kristian Niemann here, once again, guitarist for the band Sorcerer. Their new album, Lamenting of the Innocent, comes out May 29th on Metal Blade. Going to be available to order everywhere. I wish you good luck going forward, and hopefully all that's going on in the world comes to pass quickly, and we can get back to normal and back to touring and seeing live music again and having some fun. So good luck with whatever the future brings to Sorcerer. I'm sure it's going to be good. This album is excellent, Kristian. Tell you and the guys be proud. Excellent work.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Yeah, you too, man. Cheers. Bye.